And nothing, not even the flood, can stop it. Boo!
Grunts are cowardly, cannon fodder and comedic relief, right? To the overwhelming majority, yes. But that's not to say there aren't a few outliers who nearly single-handedly redefine what to expect from a grunt. And there's one grunt in particular that is basically the Unggoy's answer to the Master Chief. Grunts in the games are notably different to the grunts in the books and wider lore, true of a great many things to be fair. Plasma weapons in the books are much more deadlier than they are in the games. You can watch a Marine get shot a dozen times with a plasma pistol, and yet in the books, they're lucky to survive even 2 shots. And if they were real, the physics at play would make a single shot from a plasma weapon almost guaranteed to be fatal. Grunts in the games are the comic relief of the Covenant. They're small, diminutive, and weak, and easily dealt with, at least when compared to the Master Chief, a 7-foot-tall, half-ton armoured and augmented super soldier. But compared to Marines, they start to present a bit more of a threat. Still relatively easy to handle, but make a mistake and the grunts will often wipe the floor with the Marine. In real life, however, to an average human, they're significantly more intimidating. At between 4.5 and 5.5 feet tall, their stocky forms covered in chitinous natural dermal plating and brawny strength for their size is still something you wouldn't want to bump into down a dark alley, despite most definitely being the cannon fodder of the Covenant. In the game, they're sent in large numbers to the player, who dispatches them easily with methodical headshots. Even mini-bosses in Infinite's target dossiers are only really more resilient due to additional energy shielding and a health bar. In the books, grunts are still cowardly and will scatter if their leader is killed, or they meet overwhelming odds, but if there's enough of them, they will commit to a position and rain green plasma fire down on any resistance they encounter, and even if they're unarmed, will still throw themselves at their opponents in such huge numbers, literally crawling over the bodies of their fallen comrades to get to their target, usually when their ammo reserves are exhausted, at which point they overwhelm the position and literally tear them apart with their bare hands. But as long as a steady supply of ammo is available and their leaders fall, grunts in both the games and the books will often lose their nerve and run. It's almost the defining characteristic of their species. That is, of course, with the exception of one particular grunt. One that is literally and figuratively head and shoulders above and beyond every other Unggoy, and even more strategically effective than most elites. His name is Stolt. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and before we kick off today's video, I want to try something new. I have a couple of scripts ready to go after this one. What I wanted to do is give you guys the choice on which one you want to watch next. If I'm completely honest, I've been struggling with Halo content creation as of late for one very simple reason, and a rather silly one at that. I've already spoken to my patrons about this, but I have in the past self-imposed limitations to the content I produce. In the past, I've actively avoided making videos on subjects I know that other content creators have covered extensively, and have avoided covering lore that comes almost exclusively from the books, because I figured you've already heard all of that countless times before. There's no point in me dishing up more of the same. But it took me thinking on it and talking to my patrons to realise for some of you I am your chosen source of lore, so if I don't cover it, you don't know about it. And rather than avoiding rehashing what others have done, I should have always been thinking, what perspective can I give on this that others haven't? And on the subject of books, a very small percentage of the Halo community actually even read the books, so it's really a niche within a niche. So again, if I don't talk about it, you guys might never know about it. So in sitting back and contemplating my content, I realise I've been holding myself back, and in doing so, shortchanging you. So that changes now. So I want to give you the choice on what you want to see next. I have a short series on what happened between each of the games all lined up and ready to record, and I have a couple of most detailed breakdowns lined up, including the Marathon class cruiser, the HEV suit from Half-Life, the Fallout power armor, and the Astartes augmentations. Let me know in the comments below which one you want to see next. I will check the comments in about a week for the keywords between the games, Marathon, HEV, Fallout, and Astartes. Be sure your comment includes one of these, and whichever has the most hits gets released next. If this goes well and we get good numbers and engagement, it will become a staple of the channel. Just a quick reminder that I have relaunched my second channel, the 00 Lounge, where I talk about all sorts of nerdy topics. If you're interested in learning about science, technology, engineering, metaphysics, consciousness, and much, much more, I'll leave a link down below. Now, back to the video. Stolt was first introduced in the book Shadow of Intent, quite rightly written by none other than Joe Staten. Leave it to Joe to create the Master Chief of the Grunts. Joe imagined Stolt as much more muscular than a standard Unggoy with a reserved, even stoic personality. He was described as being unusually tall for an Unggoy, reaching the shoulders of Sangheili, who averaged between 7'4" and 8'6". If we average this size, that makes the average Sangheili around 7'11". With that in mind, we can take an educated guess that Stolt is fairly comfortably 7 feet tall, which is already terrifying. Being extremely intelligent may seem like a fairly unique trait for a grunt, but in truth grunts are very intelligent, but their immaturity and low intelligence that we see is more a symptom of lack of schooling, education and training than of an inability to attain intelligence. Unggoy mature with remarkably rapid sensory motor development, and their relatively unencumbered neural architecture allows them to acquire and process new information with notable efficiency compared to the other Covenant species. Because of this aptitude, the Covenant frequently assign them to monitor space for intercepted human communications, which over time many Unggoy have developed fluency in 2 or even 3 human languages, proving a clear intellectual capacity. But when compared to the majority of grunts who lack education and training, Stolt stood out as intelligent. Add to this his impressive strength, strategic mind and capabilities on the battlefield, and you have an Unggoy to be reckoned with. So let's go over some of his history and learn about this titan amongst the grunts, and decide for ourselves if he's as significant of a specimen as it has been suggested. During the Human Covenant War, Stolt served with the Covenant military, fighting in numerous engagements, enduring battles that claimed the lives of many of his fellow Unggoy, and survived encounters with human forces that proved fatal to others of his kind. Although there is no specific details given on the encounter, at one point during the war he crossed paths with a Spartan super soldier. Rather than flee, Stolt engaged the Spartan directly and managed to wound the human warrior, forcing the Spartan to withdraw. This should already highlight how dangerous Stolt is, but also how disproportionately different the risks and dangers involved in battle are between the games and the books. Stolt would go on to become one of very, very few Unggoy elevated to the rank of Ranger. Not entirely unheard of for an Unggoy, but this was only just the beginning of his notoriety. Many Sangheili initially dismissed him as little more than expendable infantry, cannon fodder, as much of the Unggoy race had been treated across the ages of the Covenant. They understandably doubted his competence and resented his position. However, Stolt repeatedly demonstrated his ability in sparring matches, defeating any Sangheili who tested him, and gradually earned their respect. By the time of the Great Schism, Stolt was serving aboard the CAS-class assault carrier, the Shadow of Intent, recently seized by shipmaster Artas Vadum. Upon learning of Stolt's combat record and accomplishments, Vadum came to respect him. Following the war's end, Stolt was appointed commander of the Ranger contingent aboard the carrier, a decision even supported by Vadum's orthodox second-in-command, Blademaster Vul Soran. At that time, Stolt was the only Unggoy, and the only non-Sangheili, stationed aboard that vessel, meaning he was a grunt in command of a lance of Sangheili Rangers. In 2553, the Xanar pattern light cruiser Spear of Light attacked the frontier world of Ranello. The Shadow of Intent travelled to the Sangheili frontier world when it was revealed that the assault had been led by the Sanshayan prelate Tem Batek. Vadam resolved to pursue him at all costs. He sought counsel, consulting Stolt, who advised that they would require every available ally to defeat the prelate. He supported the decision to allow Tul Juran to join their ranks despite traditional Sangheili gender restrictions and Soran's objections. After Tem attacked Duran, the Shadow of Intent moved to intercept him, engaging the Spear of Light in orbit. Following a brief exchange, Tem and 50 Jirulhane abandoned their cruiser in escape pods and boarded the carrier. As they attempted to seize control of the vessel, they encountered Tul Juran and a lance of Rangers under Stolt's command. When Tem attempted to break through toward the bridge to kill Vadum, he was pursued by Stolt, Juran, and 4 Rangers. They caught up with him at the carrier's primary gravity lift, where Vadum and Soran joined the confrontation. While Juran and Vadum dueled the prelate, Stolt and the Rangers engaged the accompanying Jirulhane. During the fighting, Stolt leapt onto the back of one of the brutes and strangled it to unconsciousness. When Tem attempted to escape, he was ultimately subdued by Soran and Stolt, with Stolt knocking him out with a single punch. During his interrogation, Tem revealed a larger conspiracy involving the Sanshayan Minister of Preparation. The two planned to use a superweapon to eradicate the populations of Sanghelios and the core worlds, and eventually dismantle Sangheili society. In response, Vadam assembled a small strike team to destroy the installation. Stolt, Juran, and Soran volunteered to accompany him. Taking Tem as captive, the team travelled to the installation orbiting a rogue planet, deploying via 2 Phantoms. As they approached, the superweapon emitted an energy pulse that injured several aboard the dropship, including Soran. Seizing the moment, Tem escaped by shooting Stolt with his own plasma pistol and manipulating Vadum into releasing him during the confusion. Activating his thrusters, the prelate fled towards the installation, pursued by Juran and Vadum. Though Stolt attempted to follow, Vadum ordered him to remain behind, tend to the wounded, and relay the contingency command to destroy the installation should they fail to return. Vadum and Juran ultimately succeeded, eliminating both the prelate and the minister, and in the aftermath, the Shadow of Intent continued operations against Covenant remnants throughout former Covenant space. In November of 2559, Stolt participated in an operation to apprehend Kalfodine. When the mission deteriorated, the team escaped using foreigner war sphinxes guided by control data Stolt had retrieved before the Vigilance with Piety self-destructed. After Dane's death, Stolt and Soran saved Juran from falling to her death on Koskar's artificial moon. The data that Stolt recovered also enabled the decryption of a message from High Lord Dovonesto. Stolt later joined the UNSC and Swords of Sanghelios forces in opposing Nesto's attempt to seize control of the domain through the Lithos on boundary. When Soran and Spartan Merrick betrayed the team, Stolt fought alongside Spartan Michael 120, helping to eliminate the rogue Spartan while sustaining only minor injuries. The betrayal left Stolt deeply troubled. When the UNSC warship, the Victory of Samothrace, destroyed the Lithos with a magnetic accelerated cannon strike, Stolt survived but became trapped beneath debris alongside Spartan David McKendon, nearly suffocating. Spartan McKendon was gravely wounded and aware he would not survive, so the Spartan made the choice to free Stolt at the cost of his own life. A grunt earning the respect of even a Spartan. Soon after, Covenant forces, including Sangheili, Kigyar, Unggoy, and a Megalic Gullo pair, surrounded the rubble. Stolt suggested the Covenant soldiers possibly wanted the Spartans' armour as a trophy, the energy signature of which Stolt suspected they were tracking. Grey Team arrived aboard Condor Zulu 79, cutting down a third of the attackers with their initial strike before engaging directly. With Tul Juran's support, Grey Team eliminated the remaining Covenant forces, rescued Stolt, and recovered McKendon's body. From this history, it's easy to see why Stolt comes with such a reputation. and why he's been given responsibilities, titles and stations well above the rest of his species, and earned the trust and respect of the Swords of Sanghelios, and even that of Spartans. But it was upon writing this script that I came to a sobering conclusion about Stolt, and if accurate, something more upsetting about the Unggoy species and their exploitation by practically every faction that has ever used them. One of the major reasons grunts were inducted into the Covenant is that the Hierarchs saw potential in using them as cannon fodder. Grunts reproduce extremely quickly, with females laying large clutches of eggs of between 5 and 12, and these eggs hatch into a sort of larval stage that lasts their entire childhood, but that's only around 5 to 8 years, at which point they are inducted into active military service, pulling them away from their families at a proportionally early age, something the grunts resent immensely as they have quite close familial ties and are highly social. Due to the speed of their reproduction, however, grunts can be sent in their thousands onto the battlefield and fall in droves, and yet can be replenished almost immediately afterward by their high birth rate and rapid growth rate. Their physical characteristics are also not dissimilar to arthropods, with some features of crustaceans and others of invertebrates. Factoring all of this together, the fast breeding, rapid growth, physiological characteristics, and the manner they are utilised by their quote-unquote betters, it is entirely possible that nearly every grunt that has ever been encountered on the battlefield by humanity is likely still very young and still growing, just like humans keep growing after reaching sexual maturity. We're not explicitly told when Stolt was born or how old he is, but it would appear he's been in service with the Covenant, and later the Swords of Sanghelios, for many years, and grunts can live into their hundreds. If we are only ever fighting 8 to 12-year-old Unggoy who have yet to fully grow, it could be hypothetically possible that grunts continue to grow for many years after reaching military age, but simply never live long enough thereafter to achieve their full size and maturity. This may explain Stolt's size, strength, and temperament. He is older and thus more matured than the vast majority of grunts we've encountered thus far. So Stolt may be a rare example of a fully grown adult male Unggoy, and all this time we've been fighting Unggoy children and early teens. Or Stolt is just a grunt apart, a physical specimen, the Master Chief of the grunts, a freak of nature. So to close this video, what do you believe is more likely? Is Stolt literally a 1 in quadrillion grunt? Or is he just fully grown and the Covenant have been sending child soldiers as cannon fodder to the battlefield? And until next time. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to tap that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Pop a comment down below on things you'd like me to cover in the future, or any thoughts on today's video. I'll just quickly take this opportunity to thank my patrons and YouTube supporters: Falcon X003, the singular Contender class Ancilla, Laser and Spartan 0137, 2 of the triumvirate of mines within the Metarch of my installation. My installation's monitors: Shane, Orion, Spartan 1029, 121 Esoteric Sight, Ashley and Sylphia. The creche of sub-monitors: Legion, Ryan, Labrat, Element 0, J3, Mr. Keys, Gunslinger Cult, Evermore's, Personal Devil, Scion Esports, Phantasma and Tony. My fleet of Strato Sentinels, my most loyal of Enforcers, and every single one of the awesome individuals helping to support the channel over on Patreon. It really does help and allows me to keep doing what I do, and I can't thank you all enough. Huge shout to my Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members Balaz, Jimbo and Mori. Thank you for continuing to stand sentry over my installation from all threats metaphysical. And if you would like to help support the channel in a more visceral way, consider jumping aboard as a YouTube member or patron to earn tons of perks, merch, and goodies along the way. Thank you again for watching, take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.